Custom Robo is a really fun game. If you don't know what Custom Robo is, it's a game where you essentially control robots who battle against each other in virtual arenas, and the main speedrun for this game is to complete a new journey campaign as quickly as you can. I'm speedrunning every game ever made for the GameCube, and this is how quickly you can speedrun Custom Robo on your first try. The game has a pretty linear storyline and a well drawn out route for the speedrun, so as long as you can follow that route, it shouldn't be too bad. Since I have the exact route that I want written out, the only thing I have to get good at and learn quickly is the fighting in this game, as I will encounter it a lot during this playthrough and can lose a ton of time if I don't get efficient with it, and especially if I lose many battles. The game starts off with us waking up and looking at a flashback into our earlier life. Our father has mysteriously disappeared, but gave us a watch telling us to keep it safe. Once back in present day, we receive a letter informing us that our father has died, and that in his final wishes he wants us to become a Robo Commander. Since we don't know anything about being one, we now have to set out to look for a job. In this game, there is one main overworld that we have to navigate through in order to progress through the story, and if you don't know exactly where you're going, this can take a ton of time to explore, but by knowing the direct route, half of the speedrun won't be too bad. We start off by going to Steel Hearts to look for ourselves a job, and Steel Hearts is a group of bounty hunters, and one of the members, Harry, teaches us how to command robos and helps us work towards getting our license so that we can fight robos legally. Before getting our license, we help Harry run a couple of errands and eventually get into our first robo battle. When speedrunning this game, the main time saves as well as the losses come from these robo fights. Throughout the game, there are a ton of different power-ups you can give your robo, and while some of the best weapons are argued over, it seems that there are a few that are top tier, and I'll be using one of those when I unlock them. At the start of the robo fight, we roll a die to determine when our robo will wake up and to begin to fight, and the die will tick down slowly as the timer drops, but can be sped up by holding down the A button. At the beginning, I didn't really understand how to time it super well, but I got used to it fairly quickly. Once in the fight, all you have to do is kill the opposing robot, and I found that the quickest way for me to do that was to use my regular shots on the enemy, knock them up, and then use my rocket once they had landed. When a robo is knocked down, they can get back up and be given a few seconds of immunity, basically so you can't completely lock someone down, but there's a small window when the robo is falling that you can still hit them, allowing you to chain some attacks. After defeating the first set of enemies, we have to talk to every single person in order to leave the arena, and this is a huge part of Custom Robo and something that is important during speedrunning. In order to progress to different stages or dialogues, every single person in the room or area has to be spoken to. This first area isn't too large, so it's pretty easy to talk to all of the scientists quickly, but in the later areas they are much bigger, and it's very easy to miss one, which will require you to backtrack and try to remember which one we skipped. After leaving the lab, we head back to Steel Hearts to report and then head back home. This game is sectioned out by days, and the main story consists of 12 days total. At the beginning of the second day, we report back to Steel Hearts, and then we head to the training in the gym with Harry. In the training gym, we fight off against Harry, and then we unlock the 3-way gun. This is going to be the best primary weapon for the rest of the game, and the reason that it's so strong is that it shoots out bursts of 3 bullets, but if you get close enough to the robot, you can hit all 3 bullets, making it do the most damage. After equipping the 3-way, we fight off against all of the training computers, and then we head to the park with Harry. Once in the park, we come into contact with some kids bullying a girl, and having nothing better to do as bounty hunters, we pick a fight with them. After defeating the kids in the park, we meet up with Marcia and head back to Steel Hearts. After getting snitched on by Marcia about not having our license, we end off day 2. One thing to note about the speedrun in this game is at the end of every day, the last person we talk to asks us what we are going to do, which we can respond with by saying we are going home, or to say we are just walking around. By choosing the go home option, we immediately end the day, and if we choose the other option, we have to walk all the way back to our house in order to go to sleep, adding a bunch of time to the speedrun. At the beginning of day 3, we head to the testing facility to attain our license. In order to get our license, we have to pass a test that is all about fighting robos. I just had the answers memorized, but it's a pretty straightforward test. It only requires an 80% to pass. After getting our license, we head back to Steel Hearts with the good news, and after that we walk back home with Harry, and as he is telling us goodbye for day 3, he drops a loose piece of paper on the ground. At the beginning of day 4, we head to Steel Hearts and notice that Harry is really down about losing a girl's number. We then get a call that there's something going on back at our home, and we find Walt and his wife arguing and fighting each other with their robos. After settling the dispute, we find out that the fight started because Walt found Harry's note on the ground, and his wife thought he was cheating on her because he had a girl's number. We then head to Bogey's Cafe and come into contact with the rival bounty hunter who is taking our jobs, and then head back to Steel Hearts with the bad news that our competition stole our bounty. After talking at Steel Hearts, we end off day 4, and at the beginning of day 5 we head to Diamond and come across a crime scene that gets the police involved, and we learn about some sort of autonomous robot that is fighting other robos as well as other humans. We then head back to Bogey's and fight our rival bounty hunter, and before the fight with Evil, we equip our new robo suit, the Metal Ape, and our new pod and thrust, which will be our loadout for the rest of the run. After defeating him, we head to the back of Bogey's and compete in an underground fighting tournament, and after winning that, we learn about the Z Syndicate, and as we are about to question the member of Z Syndicate, the lights flicker and he disappears. We are then done for the day and then end off day 5. At the start of day 6, we head to steal hearts and follow Harry and Marcia to the training hall, and in the training hall we have to do the thing where we talk to every single person in the room, and this time there are a bit more people and requires a distinct route to complete quickly. We then compete in a tournament in the training ground and face off against a bunch of different opponents, and once winning, day 6 is already over. On day 7 we head to the lab to talk to our team, and we are told that we need to gather up some information. Once again we have to talk to every single person in the lab before going to the next area, and the only thing we need to make sure of during this part is that sometimes your character will focus on the chair or object next to the scientist, so we have to make sure that we are talking to each person. The lab then gets broken into by Z Syndicate, and we have to go around the lab to fight off some lackeys and then head outside. Once we defeat all the lackeys, we head outside and save Marcia from some mysterious woman from the Z Syndicate, and after clearing out the lab we end day 7. All that we have to do for day 8 is to head back into Bogey's, and once in the back room we see that the whole place has been ransacked, and we finally meet Rahu, who's the autonomous robo that we have to defeat. After taking out Rahu, we face off against 2 mysterious men who appear to be in charge of Z Syndicate, and after defeating them Rahu awakens and then escapes. We then head back home to end day 8, and on day 9 we enter yet another tournament, and this time it's at the police station and attempt to gain a Class S license. In this room we have to once again talk to everyone in the room before actually starting the tournament, and this entire tournament consists of double battles with Harry playing as our teammate. One strategy to follow when playing in the team battles of this game is to try and focus the same person as your teammate so that you can kill them faster. Your teammate doesn't really do a whole lot in this game, but by keeping the same target, you can typically finish off the fights a bit faster. Towards the end of the tournament, we have to end up doing a solo battle against Evil, the rival bounty hunter from before, and then in the final fight of the tournament, we're somehow allowed to swap teammates from Harriet to Marcia, and then the 2 of us win the tournament. After winning the tournament, we head home and end day 9, and on day 10 we head back to the police HQ to face off against some of the police squad and eventually face off against the chief. After defeating the chief, we face off against Rahu again, and this was the first tough fight of the run. Up until now I had not lost a single game, but in the second fight against Rahu, he is extremely quick and has a ton of damage output. I realistically should have swapped my main gun since I wasn't going to be able to get super close to him to take advantage of the 3-shot, but I stuck with it and eventually won after a couple of tries. After defeating Rahu for the second time, we learned of his past, and that he is an invisible organic being who had accidentally been fused with a toy robot, and that's why the other robos were created in order to defeat him. One thing that I failed to mention in this game is that there's a ton of dialogue, and in the way that you skip all the dialogue can really affect your speedrun. Each dialogue requires 3 inputs to skip, the one to start it, the one to skip it, and the one to go to the next box. So just mashing A won't go through super quickly, you have to alternate your inputs, which honestly can get a bit tiring after doing it for a 5-minute dialogue. After the super long dialogue, we end off day 10, and at the start of day 11 we go straight to Damon's to face off against Sergei and Obero, who are the leaders of Z Syndicate. We find out that Sergei is actually Marcia's brother who has turned evil, and the fight isn't too bad. With the help of Marcia, we can finish them off pretty quickly. After the fight, they disappear with Rahu, and we head back to the police HQ to tell them of what just happened. The police captain Roy has just found out that the Z Syndicate hideout is located outside of the world. The world of Custom Robo is basically just a big dome, and everyone on the inside is brainwashed to learn that the inside of the dome is all there is. After arguing about whether or not the world is flat, your team is convinced that there is more to the world than what is inside the dome. We then take a train to the edge of the world, and we see that the wall opens up into basically a post-apocalyptic world. After traveling to the outside world, we head back to HQ, and we make a plan to attack Z Syndicate and go back home for the night. On day 12, we head to steal hearts and round up our team, head to Police HQ to get Roy and Mira, and then head to the outside world. Once in the outside world, we head into the Z hideout and split up from Roy and Mira. In the first room, we encounter a bunch of Z Syndicate members and have to take them out. The next part of this run is just going through the Z hideout, facing off against every Z lackey that we see, and Harry and Marcy are taken out, and we finally reconnect with Roy, who tells us that Mira was also taken out. We finally reconnect with Marcia, who has also taken out a bunch of lackeys, and head into the room with Rahu, who is being protected by Obero and Sergei. Sergei then reveals that he was against Obero all along, and with the help of him and Marcia, we take Obero out. Obero then tries to control Rahu to fight us, and once defeating Rahu, he escapes and is no longer under Obero's control. We then listen to a recording of our father who knows the origin of Rahu and how to defeat him, and then we go through an extremely long dialogue and then head to the abandoned amusement park. Once in the amusement park, we face off against a bunch more Z lackeys who are hiding everywhere. We even go into the bathroom with Harry and have to face off against lackeys who are hiding in the stalls. And after leaving the bathroom, we go into the clown maze and have to find our way out. And once we get out of the clown maze, we find the mysterious woman who we had to fight before, and it turns out that it was 2 women who are twins, and they are actually the leaders of Z Syndicate and not Obero. We then fight them with the help of Harry, and then we head into the final room that contains Rahu. In this fight, it's a 3v1 with Marcy and Harry on our side, and it's definitely the hardest fight of the game. This fight as well as the second fight against Rahu are the ones that gave me the most trouble, and in the final fight against Rahu, he has 10 times the amount of health as all the normal robos and dishes out a ton of damage. The main strategy that I found for this fight is to run away and be as far away from Rahu as you can whenever he is targeting you, and then whenever he is targeting either Marci or Harry, you get close and take advantage of your 3-shooter. The hardest part is that he can change his target very quickly, and if you get caught off guard, you can lose 20% of your health in an instant. The other annoying thing is that if you die, the fight immediately ends. There isn't a chance for Harry or Marcia to kill Rahu, you have to stay alive the entire time. This took me a few tries to beat, but the second you defeat Rahu, the time for the speedrun stops. My final time ended up being 3 hours, 15 minutes, and 33 seconds, and for it being the first time ever playing this game, I'm pretty happy with that given the world record is just about 2 hours. The route for the speedrun is very straightforward, and by having it written down, you can navigate through the game pretty well. This is a pretty easy game to get into speedrunning, as the main thing that needs time to perfect is the robo fighting, which is the most fun part. Overall, this game was super fun to play and maybe a game that I come back to, but until then, this was how quickly you can speedrun Custom Robo on your very first attempt.